All right, here's a quick one. Done a lot of knife reviews over the last couple years, and in my collection currently, I probably got, I don't know, 60 knives or something. So I was like, always thinking about what's the best EDC and really paying attention to what I've been carrying the most lately. And I kind of narrowed it down into 4 basic groups. Now I've got other bigger tactical-ish, whatever, knives and stuff, but I'm more along the lines here of, EDC. What's really the best just all-around pocket knife to carry? I broke it up into 4 categories. Multi-blade knives. Well, technically these had multi-blades, 2 of them, but multi-tool Swiss Army style knives. You got your super slim, quick opening, one-hand opening and locking type of knife. You got your OTFs, and then I've got my traditional slip joints. And I'll go through and go over which ones I think are the best and which one I actually find myself these days carrying absolutely the most by far. So I think when it comes down to EDCs, as far as, slim, small, quick opening, locking blade for safety, very discreet in the pocket, it's harder to pick a better knife than the Bug Out. Honestly, it really, it's S30V steel. It's a Benchmade. It's nice. It's extremely thin, extremely light, while still having a close to 3.5-inch blade that you can still get a hand on. So very slim, very minimalist, which is what I like. Weighs nothing. It's like 1.85 ounces or something. But it's a great little sharp, light to medium use knife. Just kind of what you want for an EDC. I would say that's kind of the benchmark for just an all-around slim, great EDC that you will not even realize is in your pocket. You can hide it easily. You got to go with the Benchmade Bug Out. However, in that category, there's some others if you don't want to spend $140-something. And now they got some premium ones with metal scales and you spend over $200. If you like that size, that sort of style, but you still want something, cheaper in the $50-ish range, then of all the ones that I've got, I don't think you're going to find anything better for that size, type, and use case than these 3 that we've got here. The first one, of course, Civivi Elementum with micarta. These are like 50-something bucks. D2 steel, jimping on the blade, really nice. It's just a little small for my hand, but it's certainly, I can use it. But if I had to really use it for prolonged, like doing a bunch of whittling or cutting, it probably wouldn't fit my hand as well as some of the others. But that is an excellent choice. The other one is another Civivi, and this is if you want one that's a little, I say traditional in that the blade size, you almost have a clip style, almost like a mini Bowie style, but you definitely have a clip style blade. Quick opening, also a liner lock, pocket clip, fairly deep carry. But now you've got carbon fiber and micarta and stuff like that. It's a front flipper, so you can flip it just by grabbing that front. So it does keep it out of the way, doesn't give you that protrusion over here, slides in the pocket. Great little blade, great action, nice tight lockup and all that stuff. So those 2 Civivis I think are awesome. This one for me, if I wasn't going with the Bug Out, but I wanted this type of very classy, gentlemanly, I'm going to go with the CJRB Scoria. So that uses both types of deployment, D2, well, it's ARP9 or whatever their proprietary powder steel. Which is roughly the equivalent of D2. It's got a black coated blade, and it's got really nice red and black micarta with a reversible, not quite as deep carry, but beautifully machined titanium pocket clip. And this one's closer to $69. But if you want to come in even still at half the price of the Bug Out, for me, that's the one I'm going to go for because that just fits my hand a little better. If you didn't have a 2X hand and you had a little smaller hands, I think you probably, you might want to gravitate if you want small, discreet, while still being a good quality knife. These 2 Civivis are going to be your best bets. For me, if I didn't have the Bug Out, but I wanted this is the one that I'm instinctively grabbing. This is the closest I get to the Bug Out at a much lesser price point, while still being a really nice, sharp, really good belly. The blade shape you'll notice on this is a little bit bigger, so it does fit my hand a little bigger. a little better. It's a little thicker, so I have a little more to grab onto. So it's not quite as discreet as the Bug Out, but it's not much more. If you're a big guy like me and you got big pockets and stuff, then that's this is going to be my backup. So I would say if you got smaller hands where this fits your hands a little better, those are excellent choices, and especially given the price. But the Bug Out is where it's at. That's probably the best EDC for that style of knife. And then if you want the cheaper alternative, I'm going to give you that option. CJRB Scoria. Let's move those off. Now, other folks like OTFs. You got your Microtech Ultratech, kind of the benchmark for the breed. You've got your Guardian Tactical Recon 035 with a Tonto LMAX blade. And then you got the newer kid on the block. You've got the Axial Gear. So of these, of my OTFs, and I have some others. I've got some Vespas, and I've got another Axial Gear that's a different style. But of these styles here, the one I would actually go for, and is going to be my top pick for out of my collection, my OTFs, I'm going with Axial Gear. It's comparable quality, comparable materials, comparable construction, CNC machining. They're all US made. This is using 20 CV steel, so this is an excellent blade steel. And it comes down to two things. The deep carry pocket clip, which this one's deep-ish. This one's not. You know, most jeans, you're going to stop about there and you're going to have all that sticking out, including the glass breaker, which sounds like a good idea in theory, but to me, I don't know if you're ever going to use it. And it's also doesn't fit the hand as well. It's a little narrow this way, so you feel like you're gripping a pencil. With the Axial Gear, it's cheaper. It has similar action. It's got really nice machining, but not quite as abrasive, but abrasive enough. You got 20 CV steel, which is comparable to the 204P or whatever they're using here. 204P, I think, is just an American version of the M390. So excellent blade steels all around. Nothing wrong with the LMAX. I would say that this one has the best action out of any OTF on the market until you get up into like the customs and stuff. But I will say what I don't like about it is it's a little hard to get a grip on. You got jimping on the side, but it's not anywhere that engages your hand. These swells aren't enough, and this is a really slick finish. It feels good, but it's kind of like the slick finish on the back of if you got like a new iPad or something, and it's all rounded and so slick, and yeah, it looks elegant and all that. It feels premium, but at the same time, you also feel like you're always trying to grab and hold on to a wet bar of well-rounded, used soap, and it just wants to slip and squirt on your hands. So for this, if you're really going to use it, your hand's going to be sliding around in that. This has a nicer texture to it. It's got jimping on the front and back, and it just seems to lock into your hand better. And also, you see that on the Guardian Tactical, how that thing comes up? That does make just a little bit of a hot spot right in the middle of your hand. This doesn't. In fact, very so slightly curves back. There's no hot spot. It feels great. So of the OTFs, we're going to move those off the table. Nothing wrong with those. That's the better one, in my opinion. Go with the Axial Gear. They're like $265, or maybe you can get a little less if you go with S35 instead of 20 CV. Then I've got a ton of slip joints. So I've got Barlows. I've got a bunch of Stockmans. I've got your, whatchamacallit, what is this? The Trappers. I've got Boker. I've got Rough Rider. I've got all kinds of brands. I got a ton of these. Of these are my three faves, and then I'll narrow it down to the one and why. I love the Boker. I love the look of it. I love the fit and finish. I like the tree branding. The steel is good. It's very sharp. Minimal blade play. Now, I was getting blade wrap, which is a problem with a lot of the Trapper designs, but I've got my leather in there, so the blade is smacking into the steel, but still gives you a nice satisfying smack. Nice two-blade design, beautiful, very smooth, excellent jigged bone. Like that one a lot. I also, out of all my Rough Rider reserves, of which I have plenty, I like the Tear Jerk. It's just big enough to get a grip on. It gives you that Barlow style blade, even though technically I've been told this is not quite a Barlow, but it's similar in some ways. But then you've also got that secondary backup blade to do different kinds of cuts. So you got that sharp piercing point and be able to do really nice draw cuts. I like this one a lot. The one though, out of all my slip joints that I like the best is this one, and I'll tell you why. All slip joints inherently have some kind of slack. They've got some kind of blade wobble, some more, some less, and that's because the way these are pressed and peened together, they either get it just right or it's a little too tight or a little too loose, and you really can't adjust it. The other thing, as much as I love this design from these guys from Boker, is the nail nick is not deep enough. If you're always working with your hands on bikes and doing stuff, or you chew your nails and keep your nails short, I struggle a lot to open the damn blade. It's not deep enough and it's at the wrong angle. This one's deep. You can see how that one is shallow and that one's deep. I never have a problem drawing this one, but you really have to pinch it hard. And here, I'm not pinching the back of the blade. I can't get access to the blade because I'm hitting the secondary blade. So all the pressure just goes into that nail nick and you try to pull it out. You don't have a way to grab the blade. If I try to stick my finger under there, I run the risk of cutting the tip of my finger off because it is a very strong spring. So between that very thin, shallow nail nick and not able to grip the blade because it is a two-blade design, and the strong spring, as much as I like this, I don't carry it as much because sometimes it takes me like 3 times to get the damn thing open, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. I don't have the problem with this, but I'll tell you what I like about the Lion Steel. You don't even have to necessarily get there's an actual shelf there. You can just pinch it and open it. This has this is a very strong spring. So it's a slip joint, but it's got really good tension. It doesn't want to just close too easily like some of the case knives I have. But this is M390, titanium, carbon fiber. It's light as a feather, just big enough. So if I want a very discreet, gentlemanly, not looking kind of like a weapon sort of blade, maybe I'm going to be in the office or somewhere where it's, something like this would be, it definitely raise some eyebrows and be frowned upon. That's when something like this, just very gentlemanly, but it's a nice, strong, good steel blade. It is razor sharp, really, really scalpel sharp pointing tip for piercing and slicing. It's just a really good knife. Really good action, perfect blade centering. It is a slip joint. What's cool is that the slip joint can be adjusted. Or I should say the tension here. So if I take off these screws, those titanium plates come over and then I'm on the steel liner. And there's going to be the screw for me to tighten the pivot. So I can adjust that pivot to get it is exactly where I want. It's hard to see down in there, but there are phosphor bronze washers. It came from the factory, perfect. There is no blade wobble. There's no rocking back and forth. This is just a great, wicked little blade. So for the gentlemanly, traditional slip knot, whatever, slip joint, yeah, that's the word we want. I'm going with the Lion Steel. This is the Lion Steel Barlow with the Dom blade. It's excellent. It's kind of like, if this, being that's light in size and simplicity, if you wanted a classic slip joint equivalent of a bug out, this is what you want. And then the last one, the last group I've got, and again, this is just a tiny fraction of my collection. These are the ones I just most, the different categories and what's most popular with me, is I've got a Farmer X Alox, which I love the Alox series. They're thicker steel, they're aluminum handles, they don't feel plasticky. The knives themselves are just, it's more substantial. It feels like a better, higher quality, and it is. It's a heavier duty version of their knives. As much as I like this, it's just a wee little knife. It's a slip joint. Can I use it? Yeah, but I just find that it just, as much as I like it and I love the quality, it's a very premium little knife. I don't carry it as much. I tend, if I'm going to go with a Swiss Army knife, I tend to like the bigger knives that have more grip, more area to use it and stuff like that, and just kind of lock your hand into it. And of those types of knives, when I look at the larger Swiss Army style, we'll put our picks up here as we move these other ones off, is You got the larger Swiss Army knives from Victorinox, and then you've got Ruki. And Ruki is made in China, but it uses Sandvik steel. It's got a pocket clip. It's got saws and scissors. And the problem I have with these guys is I can't find, they only have certain configurations, whereas there's like, 70 of these. And so if I honestly, in the larger one-hand opening and liner locking type, I mean, this thing's got pliers. It's got all kinds of stuff, but it has things on here that I don't need. I don't need a corkscrew. When's the last time you needed a corkscrew? But a Phillips screwdriver I would use all the time. So I like the fact that it has a pocket clip. I like the fact that it's got a good assortment of tools, but in order, I can't find from them the right one. That's the problem. If I was going to get one from them, another one that would be kind of like my favorite all around multi-tooled kind of knife, it would have a Phillips screwdriver here. It would keep the pocket clip. It would have the large spear point with the lock and the one-handed opening, but I'd probably get rid of the pliers or some of these other tools just to make it a little thinner. This thing is really heavy. Now, if you're going camping and you need to throw something in a bug-out bag or your backpack or something, if you were to go hiking, then I can see having something like this where you would have your different tools, pliers, all that kind of stuff. I think that is then when that makes sense. But for an EDC, I mean, these are cool tools. It's too much for EDC. So what is the one that I carry the most often when I'm carrying that kind of knife? Victorinox Tracker. Okay. It isn't one-hand opening. That's the one concession. They don't make the one-handed Tracker without a serrated blade anymore, but it does open. It does lock. So I've got a nice, very easy to sharpen, very nice. I did reprofile the tip. So it's got a nice stabby point, and then just took a polishing wheel on my Dremel. And so after I hit it on the belt sander, I then went and polished that. So you can't really tell that it's been modified. But you got that. You got a saw blade. You got your screwdriver and bottle opener, and the screwdriver locks. And what I like about this one is it locks with a liner lock. Some of the Victorinox have a locking, but you have to actually push with enough pressure for it to kind of push in a little bit, and then it engages the lock. The problem with that is as you're moving it, there's a point where you're putting enough pressure on it that if it were to slip, it's going to slam shut, maybe slam on your finger or scratch something, but you're not pushing it hard enough to engage the lock. And that's why I like having that. You've also then got your can opener, small screwdriver, and on the back you got an awl if you had to punch a hole in something, but you got that, as well as tweezers, toothpick. Of all the knives that I carry, this one's in my pocket the most. I've kind of moved to the Swiss Army knife because I'm always having to open something. I always need a blade. I feel better with a locking blade. Even though it's not one-handed opening and closing, I'll just suck it up and deal with that. But then I've also got screwdrivers and other things that I typically am using on a daily basis. If I had to go small with a Swiss Army knife and carry a smaller one, then this is the one I would carry. It's really nice, really smooth action. It's just a little too small for me. So those are my favorite knives currently out of all the ones you've seen in all the reviews. The Bug Out's the best locking, single, one-hand opening, slim, very discreet EDC. There just isn't a better one out there. My runner-up, if you're on for me, for that category, is going to be the CJRB Scoria. Of all the things that I have, that's the one I like. It's just super thin, super light, nice premium materials, ball bearings, really good action. If you got smaller hands, then that's when you look at some of the Civivis. For the OTFs, as much as I like that Guardian Tacticals, action, this one, Axial Gear. Beautiful action, nice snappy, super deep pocket clip that you can remove that screw, slide this out, slide it on the other side, and now you got it for left-handed. Doesn't matter to me so much, but that's important for a lot of folks, being able to switch that around. And because it's very tightly machined into there, you don't get any wobble. So you only have one screw. It doesn't want to twist this way because that thing goes all the way through that channel. It's locked into place. That is a very nice, very secure pocket clip design. That is an improvement over their first gen. A bunch of us that did reviews made that suggestion to go to the deep carry, and they listened, and they reprofiled the end, switched that. That's why that's my favorite OTF. And then for the gentlemen's, I mean, come on. How classy is that? Yeah, it's more modern materials. It's not bone like the old one, but between having the modern materials, the titanium carbon fiber, beautiful M390 steel, really nice blade shape. You can get a spear point and a clip point as well, but also being able to adjust that pivot so that it's just tight enough. Everything, there's no wobbling, but there's no binding. It's silky smooth. It's just a really great action, half stop, strong spring, and just big enough for that super discreet gentleman's knife for me to get a hand on and do some work if I needed to. So there you have it. These are my favorites of each type with one runner up. So there's our 4 favorites for the 4 different categories. The honorable mention here. But out of these 4, that's the one I'm carrying the most often. Not the $140 bug out, not the $135 Barlow, not the $265 OTF. Well, those are all great and use superior materials. If you were to walk up to me on the street and do a pocket dump and say, what are you carrying today? This one is the one that's most likely to be on my pocket. Then followed by these, depending on, you know, what I'm dressing like that day. So there you have it. Tell me if you agree, disagree, if there's something else I should have considered. I mean, I got a lot of knives. I mean, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 is regarded as one of the best EDCs, but I haven't carried that in 2 years. I'm carrying one of these. So anyway, let me know your thoughts.